Welcome to the PioPitch video podcast. I'm Tyler Johnston. I am a freshman and a strategic communications major and a marketing minor at Marietta College. Our guest today is Marc, Chief Executive Officer at RevLocal. RevLocal specializes in personalized digital marketing for local businesses located in Granville, Ohio.
Good morning, Tyler.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and how you got started.
RevLocal currently is about a 450-person firm with covering 40 cities, and we provide the digital marketing to small businesses. But our background, my brother and I partnered to do this. We started it about 10 years ago, and prior to that, we were doing dial-up internet access. One of the things that we learned was how to help ourselves show up and compete through doing search engine marketing and SEO and all of the tactics that enable you to gain customers across the country. So we had successfully figured out how to get consumers to buy dial-up internet access from all over the US and Canada, had 60,000 customers. And from that experience, we started to realize the changing environment of digital and people pulling out their cell phones and, going to location pages, which is 10 years old now. We saw businesses struggling with how do they show up and how do they make sure that they can reach their customers as they moved from reading the newspaper and listening to other kinds of ads to looking at their phone all the time. So with RevLocal, our entrepreneurial idea was we have knowledge and an ability to deliver a value that we thought people would need and business owners would need. And so we tested that and we validated that we could provide that value and that customers did need it. And so for the last 10 years, we've scaled to continue to grow on a regular basis to reach more and more business owners who need somebody to help them figure out the complexity of digital marketing in a digital age.
So then what would you say separates RevLocal from other marketing agencies?
There's a lot of different ways to tackle digital marketing. We believe strongly in, first off, the product of focusing on managing your digital presence and making sure that you have all of your basics covered. So I often say when you're a business owner, you're trying to figure out what's the most effective investment I can make in anything, whether it be marketing or your accountant, who's the best accountant for me, or who's my best attorney, what do I need to invest in? And so we believe that the solution or strategy of being great locally, if you're a local business owner, to look at the radius around where you are and realize that's where most of your customers come from. Doing online transactions for something 60 miles away, if you're a restaurant, doesn't always make sense. And so we really hone in on being great hyper locally for local business owners. And then with that is making sure that our delivery, our go-to-market includes a personal touch, because business owners have a hard time with trust. They struggle knowing who is the real one, who's going to deliver what they promise, because there's a lot of false promises, a lot of people trying to get them to spend money on something that they can't actually deliver. So we've always been, as former small business owners ourselves, and as we've grown and started as a small business, we wanted to make sure we had a really good brand promise as an entrepreneurial entity to say we are going to do what we say we're going to do, and we're not going to require a contract, and we're going to prove it to you every single month, which was very unusual in the market compared to competitors, because they always want to lock people into a contract and give themselves, as the business provider, 6 months to really show the value. Well, we have to start showing it right away. So everything we do is around that brand promise that we're going to show you results or you can fire us, and we're going to give you a person you can contact. So we have strategists that are assigned to the individual business, not a call center, and we have salespeople that have met them in person. So we have 150 salespeople across the US that go in person and meet the business owners in the communities where they live. So that personal trust gets built at the beginning and is maintained, and they can then choose RevLocal over someone else who's got a good looking pitch, but doesn't necessarily have some of those attributes of trust and validation of the trust that we're professing. So that's how we go after it.
Would you say that your customers value the fact that they're not tied down and that personalized experience with you guys more than a contract with another marketing agency? Better?
Yeah, I think competitively it's proven to be that way. I think there are changes happening in the market. That's always been our brand promise. What I've learned in the last couple of years is when they start to trust you, they also want to be sure that you're going to still be there or still willing to serve them. So I've had actually a little bit of the other, like, hey, will you guys commit to continue to give me this price for the next 6 months? So they feel a little bit of uneasy that, hey, you're giving me really good value. I don't want you to increase my price. So can you lock this in? Generally speaking, I think it is a true differentiator. And to be honest, a lot of my competitors during COVID realized they shouldn't have had the contract because they couldn't enforce it, because it was unfair to enforce it. So it didn't do anything for you as a business to protect your revenue, at that time. And so a lot of them dropped their contract requirements. Yes, I think it's always been a differentiator because our actions match our sales pitch. And so I think that's a really big deal that people are really looking to see how you act more than what you say, especially in business, because everybody can sound the same. And then what is it that you do on the back end? So that was one of the reasons why we created that structure, to make sure that we were validating what we were professing.
So throughout the last 10 or so years of you building this business and everything that you've gone through, what types of problems and or opportunities have you faced, and have they affected your business strategy negatively or positively?
I think it's naive to think you're not going to run into obstacles on a regular basis as a business owner. Our customers do, and so do we. I would say the primary thing that I would comment about is when you're scaling a business, being a small business with 5 or 10 employees and a limited product, but you do it really well and can do it profitably, it's a good way to live. But if you want to scale a business, I say this because in our prior dial-up business, we grew to 60,000 customers and we had 50, 60 employees, but it wasn't going to get bigger than that. So it was a very controlled and more plodding growth. And this was a fast ramp. And so when you have that, when you're growing, it stresses all your systems. It stresses everything from the computer systems that you have everybody on to the management structure. Do you have enough managers for all the people you hired? We hired 40 people in 3 months. And that was like, holy cow, they don't even know who they went to work for. They know they got a job. Training was slow to get caught up. So I would say that an adage that I have started to live by in the last 5 to 7 years as we were growing is build for where you're going and not where you are. And so that adage is really how we try to invest and have the leadership in place and have the scaling already there, so that when we grow, $10 million in revenue in a year, we are already ready for it. We already have the systems to track it well, to make things smooth for the customer, to have the people hired and trained to be able to deliver what you promise. And you got to invest ahead of your actual revenue. So I would say the biggest thing is scaling a company and growing fast is very different than, very controlled 10%, we're 30, 40% a year growth. And that challenged me. I'd never had a company this size. I ran smaller companies. I was a banker in my past. I was an accountant in my training. And so having done that, I really wasn't in a position where I had to think about how to hire those people. What are the systems? And to anticipate where the puck is going instead of where it is. That's what you have to do, is you have to try to figure out where it's going and get there before the puck does, which is the business that's coming to you. So that's been challenging. And it's something that I've been very fortunate to find good partners and good teammates, because it's never just about me. It's just my responsibility to make sure I got the right people in the right positions around me.
For the process of you being able to scale your business, make everything work right, make all the gears shift together, do you think that mindset of yours and being able to develop everything came naturally, or did you just have to learn that as everything progressed on?
I think it's a little bit arrogant to say and it came naturally. I think it came through failure. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs have to understand, I think a lot of people like to think that they have a great idea and it'll just happen and it's magical. And the reality of it is, I learned this when I was in college, learning how to sell a product to someone. So what I did in college is I went and knocked on doors for a summer, 2 summers in a row, where I was selling a product to families in another 2 states away. And I had to figure out how to convince a mom or a dad or a family to buy books for their kids. And so that challenge really taught me how to manage your negative emotions, how to manage failure, because literally you'd talk to 30 families in a day and 3 or 4 would buy. That's 26 or 7 people telling you no, or get out of my yard, or get off my porch. And so when you're in business, when we started RevLocal, there were many businesses who didn't see the value in it, didn't want to buy it, or customers that you did get a yes from that said, I don't see it 3 months later. And does that defeat you, or does it cause you to believe in there's a way to change this? There's a way to iterate and fix things on the way. So I would say the answer to the question, Tyler, is we iterated our way. Try, fail forward. Believe in a positive result. Face the brutal facts, but believe and have faith that you can come up with an answer. That's how we approached it. And so I often say somebody could take as much money, could have twice as much money as we spent to build a business and not get where we are, because they're going to have to spend 5 to 10 years failing, because you can't buy your way to success. You have to live your way to success. You got to try, fail, and adjust. And I think that doesn't stop. It's really the journey of every business, no matter whether they're $1 million, $100 million, or $1 billion business. They're constantly have to create a culture of learning, failing, learning from those, and then moving forward with a new solution. And sometimes it can take multiple attempts to get the right answer.
What are the most fulfilling aspects of what you do?
Simply put, my why is that I like to see people grow. I am passionate about helping people succeed in life. I believe that more of RevLocal is good for the world. If I can help a business owner be able to sell better, find more customers, or retain their current customers, then I've just protected someone's livelihood. I've protected their ability to make an income. I've protected perhaps their family because they have a mortgage on their home to open up that business. And there are a lot of businesses that are still struggling to make transition away from older ways of doing business. COVID, the past year, showed that. Some were ready and some weren't. If you weren't ready, you're in trouble. If you were ready, you lean in on it and you stay strong, which many did and some didn't. And so as a business and as a business owner, it's the client that I most focus on, but it's also the people that come along. Hiring college graduates, hiring younger people who have a desire to do good, have a desire to be effective and successful and have a good career. We have the opportunity to create and continue to iterate on having a workplace where they can feel valued, they can be well trained, and they can grow and become a better version of themselves. So if I can help someone become a better version, whether they stay with RevLocal for a short time or for a career, then I feel like it's a fulfilling way to live and work. And it gets me up every morning excited to try to challenge myself to make us better and help other people get better. So it is really about helping people flourish. It's one of our taglines is that we want to have an environment where people flourish, both clients and our associates.
So then on the flip side of that question, what are some things that keep you up at night?
The older I get, the less things keep me up at night. But I would just say that in the current environment, it's the challenge of constant change. And one of the greatest opportunities RevLocal has is to help a business owner keep up with the complexity. So we're trying to help somebody do something that we have to be good at. And in the current environment, post-COVID, there's a lot of strategic moves. It's a chess game, right? And you start looking as you get bigger like we do, there are companies merging with each other. There are companies taking buyouts, companies taking money and being more aggressive, and they're going to be going after our customers. Business is a competitive game. Sleeplessness is not something I ever struggle with. I believe and have faith that it'll work out. That's just how I'm wired, because I've learned that you just get up and tackle it the next day. Anxiety to me is something that you can control. Whether or not you put pressure on yourself or not is something you can control. So I don't get caught up in it too much, but I would say the thing that I'm focused on the most strategically is understanding the landscape and what should RevLocal do to grow faster, to make sure that it has the right products and services to serve the needs of the customers in the next 10 years the way we did the last 10 years.
So you've touched on COVID here and there a little bit, but how did it affect your business initially? And then how did it affect the way your business is doing now?
A couple points here that I would make is when we came into COVID, it was a shock to all of us. It scared me to death in a lot of ways. There was more sleepless nights then. So take back what I just said, Kyler, but just because of the uncertainty. Uncertainty drives anxiety. What's going to happen and where is this going to go? We had no contract. So could our customers just all shut us off and have no revenue and all of us lose our jobs? That was a risk. What we found and what COVID taught me was, one, that our business owners really do rely on us. And so we are a much more resilient business than I thought. Number two, I also thought at the time, and I professed, that customers are going to judge businesses by the way they act in the moment of difficulty. And so are you trustworthy? Are we going to be effective and be proactive in offering to lower prices? Are we going to offer to shut off something and pause it? Or are we going to tell them we're shutting you off and we're not going to help you? Being very compassionate and very partner-like with your clients was a really big deal. And so we did that during that period. Now, as we come out of it, as we look back, I think the comment I would make is we grew new muscles. We used muscles that we didn't know we had in our ability to do things virtually. If you can, as a salesperson, get on the video call and talk to a customer back to back to back, 4 a.m, 4 hours, that is twice the work that you could have done if you got in your car, drove out, set up an appointment, and tried to sit down and talk to someone. So the efficiency grew and the skills grew. And so now our salespeople do 3/4 of their time has been saved because they're not just knocking on the doors of business owners. They're reaching out to them through social media. They're doing direct messaging on social media. They're texting with clients and they're doing things in a new way. And for salespeople that have been in their business for a long time, that was a real challenge. When I look at it now, we're stronger than we were a year ago because we're producing more sales with 1/3 less people. The 1/3 less people was not something we intended to do. We didn't lay anybody off during the process. We stayed strong. But as people found other opportunities, we just found we didn't need to have that extra 30 or 40 salespeople. We could do more with less. And so it's made us stronger, more effective. And, I'm excited about what it's going to mean as we bring in and increase the sales force again. We're teaching them and training them in totally different ways than we did a year ago.
So with all the changes with COVID and everything that you've had to go through, what are your future plans for RevLocal down the road?
I'm really blessed and fortunate that we're in a market, Tyler, that's not slowing down. We're in a market that there's a big blue ocean out in front of us while there's growth and there's other competitors and we're all finding ways to serve customers. There's a lot of customers who don't have a partner yet. There's a lot of customers who need to do more. So I think in the next 5 years, we should triple. How we do that, whether we do it all on our own or we acquire other businesses or we partner with other businesses, is yet to be seen. But at the end of the day, I believe that we're going to be one of the players that's going to continue to grow and provide the services that business owners need in a bigger way in the next 5 years.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Before we end this interview, I would like to ask you one more question. What is some advice that you'd give for a young aspiring entrepreneur?
For young entrepreneurs, I think sometimes it can be glamorized that, having been a banker where I used to lend the money to small businesses or people who quit their job to go start a business. As an entrepreneur, just remember that you never stop learning. What I shared in our journey and what I've learned as an entrepreneur is you have to have an attitude of curiosity, a mindset of resilience, to know that it's going to be hard, but to know that if you continue to look for answers and you are a learner, some kids in college look at college as something they have to do, not something that sets them up for life. And I believe that's a mistake. And I think going through the motions and not learning how to be a learner, that's when I hire people, we hire 50 to 100 people a year, and a lot of them recent college grads. I'm looking for people who learned how to learn, how to go seek an answer, how to be curious, and how to find out, how do I solve something? Because that's how the world works, and that's how businesses work. Businesses solve problems for people, and they pay them for solving those. And sometimes it's a product, sometimes it's a service. But remember, entrepreneurship at the core, you have to be able to create value, and somebody's got to be willing to pay you for it. If you can do that, you've got a business. Now the question is, how well do you do it? And do you continue to make yourself better and have an attitude of constant growth? And if you do, as an entrepreneur, you can do a lot of fun things, and it can be more fun than working for someone else.
Well, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Tyler.